after a long, tumultuous month after firing Doug Peterson, going through a coaching search with Trent Baalke, the general manager, helping with the search, maybe narrowing choices down so Baalke can keep a job. Liam Coen turns them down. The Jaguars fire Trent Baalke, or part ways with Trent Baalke, and then bring Liam Coen back, who's the Bucs offense coordinator, back for a second interview. Boom, boom, hired. Long story short, we got Duval clips coming in. We got Duval memes from Liam Coen in his opening press conference. Having said all that, and we'll talk about the press conference, I bet, but I'm excited about this. Not only about Coen, what you have talked about a lot, what Coen has done as offensive coordinator for the Bucs this year, and I think that was very valid. It held up throughout the year, throughout the injuries. Great quarterback play, great run game, really well-designed stuff, but also just the other ramifications of these moves. No more Baalke, which I think is a big move in Jacksonville, that they finally have a clean slate to merge or to join in unison their head coach, their GM, and we know who their franchise quarterback is in Trevor Lawrence. But Matt, as maybe Liam Coen's number one fan, or at least on the Mount Rushmore, what are some of your thoughts, Coen going to Jacksonville? Are you excited? Brian Thomas Jr. is there as well. What do you think they might need to add? Any thoughts that you have on this move, as the ban has been lifted? So we have a lot to catch up on in Jacksonville.
So much to catch up on in Jacksonville, man. And, actually a lot of exciting things going on, especially this Liam Coen hire. And you're right, it was messy to get here. It was certainly, messy on the Coen Bucs side of things. I will say I did see, Coen saying that like all of his players were very supportive of like, go get this thing, from Baker to Mike Evans to Bucky Irving. That makes sense. I'm sure Jason Light has feelings about how the whole thing went down and all that, and maybe some Bucs upper management, and maybe it wasn't handled perfectly, whatever. But at the end of the day, like this is a rare opportunity for Liam Coen. I think he put it that way. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be coach of one of the NFL teams, especially this team, because I think it's kind of tough. Like, is this a good job? Is it a bad job? Now that Baalke's out of there, and basically I think Coen gets to kind of have a lot of influence, if not just outright pick his general manager and really put together his staff. And you've pointed this out, Nate, and when people have asked me about it, it's like, why is Trent Baalke a bad general manager? And I've pointed to your analysis on this, that it isn't necessarily just the player selection stuff, because I think he has done he's brought in some good players. I mean, obviously round one, Brian Thomas Jr., that's a grand slam draft pick. That isn't just a home run. Yeah, it was a home run. It was an electric pick. He's made some good acquisitions, but beyond the fact that some of the players have been a little samey or overlapping skill sets and things like that, like narrow application, I do think that the biggest issue is the way he interferes with the coaching staff and things like that. So you've got that out of here. You've got a big payday here for Liam Coen. You've got a lot of power for Liam Coen here. And it is a roster that has some ability, especially on the offensive side of the football. I mean, they are going to have to fix the offensive line first and foremost. I'm a fan of Cohen's scheme and things like that. We can't talk about the Bucs offense last year without talking about the fact that they fixed that offensive line over the course of really two years. They draft Cody Mock. They draft Graham Barton this last year. Gadecki continues to get better. Ben Bredesen was a good signing by them. Like that's going to be priority one. They've got to fix that offensive line, or nothing's really going to work. But I did think it was interesting to hear Liam Coen. I'm sorry now, I can't remember the radio station he was on, but talking about he was pleasantly surprised going back and watching this team on film, not just seeing their effort, but specifically seeing Brian Thomas Jr. and how he could line up in the slot. And I thought this was interesting because, and he said it was like a pleasant surprise to see him be able to do that. You perked up
when you saw that, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I mean beyond the fact that we're gonna it'll now be fun to see every fantasy analyst decide, are they gonna say, well, Brian Thomas Jr. will be playing the Mike Evans role, or Brian Thomas Jr. will be playing the Chris Godwin role. Like now we get to do that. But I think he could be like his own animal in this offense. But I did look it up: 3.12 yards per route run from the slot in his rookie year for Brian Thomas Jr. So I think his speed and his playmaking ability in space is really going to be kind of the difference maker in that spot when they get him those free releases and things like that. And the last staff did a pretty good job of that too, but I think my faith in Coen being able to do it is even higher.
What I like about Coen, and especially what I saw this year, is, he has a Rams background. He's very much a Sean McVay guy. But when I watched that offense, it was like, it wasn't just a straight where I was like, oh yeah, this is McVay, Shanahan all the way. It was a hybrid kind of offense. And I thought I think that's a feather in the cap of Coen, that he was just not going like, oh, I'm control C, Control V. This is what I'm doing in this offense. Baker is a totally different quarterback than Matthew Stafford. Trevor Lawrence is a totally different quarterback than both of them. Adjusting to personnel, the injuries and stuff. It wasn't like he was like, I have to be in 11 personnel every play. It was like, oh no, we'll change it up. We'll have O'Keefe out there. Like we'll do things that will change up the personnel, and especially with injuries, kind of force their hand with some of that. But no matter what, guys knew what to do, which I always think matters. That you see like zero fat with the mental thinking. Guys knew exactly where to line up on stuff. The Brian Thomas Jr. thing is really interesting because anecdotally, I remember some red zone plays and maybe some play action plays where they put him in the slot, and that makes total sense because speed, size, get him over the middle and everything. Throwing over the middle is another thing is that I want to see Trevor Lawrence do more, because I always thought in my head, Trevor is like the high end version of Trevor. If he hits that ceiling, is a souped up version of Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan's best throws are throwing over the middle, benders, digs. And I always thought the last staff kind of made it. They're like, oh, our O-line's not great. Oh, the dink and duck. Trevor's such a quick thrower, which is good. Like, yes, you can do that and be a part of the offense, but you don't make the whole, plane out of it. And I thought this year and really the second half of last year before they went on the losing streak, they started to implement some things that I was like, okay. And I think Coen can kind of, continue that. He also, like you said, there's 32 jobs. He has a franchise QB. There's no state income tax. And he's probably has some say in the GM. Like any Bucs fans that are upset about this, I get, losing a coordinator. It's fine. This is what happens. Not a lot of guys are going to turn that job down and everything. But like you said, some execs might be unhappy. Looking at this team, I don't think, being a McVay-brained guy, I don't think he has any, bad thoughts or bad process where he's like, I don't need a line. Blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I think he knows the lessons of what that is. And that's where my eyes go when I look at the Jags. It's Brandon Scherff's going to be a free agent. Mitch Morse is still their center, getting older, has had injury history. But really the other free agents are Andre Sisco, who is a safety I do like, and Luke Farrell, who's a blocking tight end. I still think this team needs some interior offensive linemen. I like Harrison a lot, their right tackle. He had an up and down year, but his rookie year was great, which was another tip of the cap to Trent Baalke. Like, I thought that he hit on Harrison, who the line coach is meh. And that's why I'm also going to say Coen might be able to bring in the offensive line coach from the Bucs. There's rumors that he's bringing some of the staff. That's Kevin Carberry, who I thought did a phenomenal job this last year with the Bucs. Obviously has some talent, but even before that, when he was with the Rams, he did a nice job as well, which I think would be a huge, huge hire for them because, kind of keep the good times going. But they need a tight end with some actual blocking ability, which speaks to what you're talking about, where my frustrations with Baalke and what you talked about, some sameness, and the term I always picked was fragile, which is because if one guy got hurt, no one else could step up in that role. There was not a lot of versatility with the players. There was a lot of guys that were kind of role players in their roles. And so that was like the Brent Strange draft pick. And I'm on record. There's video of me out there yelling that they should be drafting Tucker Kraft. When that pick happened, I flipped out on my old show because I was like, no, you have Evan Ingram. This is the same player. They're the same player. What are you doing? Like, I flipped out. I was like, draft Tucker Kraft. And I was on record with that. And I still stand by it. That's where Luke Farrell, what they do with him. But like, Luke Farrell's not a needle mover. He's a guy that just, plays a dozen snaps and does some nice things. BTJ looks like a number one. Like, how high of a number one he is, but he looks like a number one, which is like, cool. Secondary pass catchers, Christian Kirk is still there, kind of figure out what else is the secondary pass catchers, but this is on him. These are the problems that they'll have to figure out probably with the GM as well. Luckily, they got some cap space, and actually they got some draft collateral. The number 5 pick, the number 36 pick, number 70, number 88 from Minnesota, and the Dallas Turner trade, I believe it was. And then they got Minnesota's 4th as well, the 125. So they got some stuff to work with here, which I think can make it really interesting, where I think if he hits it right in this division, they could really ramp up. People are optimistic about the Jags this year. I wasn't, but teams are optimistic about the Jags. Shoot, they can refresh this if they just kind of shore up around the edges on their roster. They have a quarterback. They really do. I know people are arguing whether he's worth it or not. Trevor's worth the money, and that's why Coen wanted to go there, and other guys like Ben Johnson wanted to go there. But I just really think they can really shore some things up.